Travis Wayne Goodsell. I am the world's foremost anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. I use science in my research. Logical, Socratic methodology in the development of theories that are testable immediately, not hypothetically under certain conditions needing to be met, that require 3 confirmations from tests to establish facts of truth. The theories must contain logical, Socratic methodology premises. They lead to the conclusion. No fallacies are allowed, because when you run the test, it'll come up negative. And so you got to go back and find the fallacy argument, remove it, and replace it with logic. This is a real simple process, even though it is kind of complex. But nonetheless, being taught this, and thus becoming the foremost anthropologist of the ancient Middle East, it has served to expose those who claim to be scientists, who claim that they're using this process, but don't, and become popular, and become the tradition, even being taught in the public school system. I first exposed William Foxwell Albright of being wrong about the origins of Paleo-Hebrew. All I did was go over his theory. Every single premise was wrong. He started with a conclusion that it was the acronym theory, and then made stuff up. And no one ever questioned him. No one ever fact-checked him. He published it, everybody accepted it as true, and the tradition still lives on to this day. He is wrong. And yet, by simply fact-checking him, realizing that he was wrong, I then knew that Paleo-Hebrew had not been deciphered correctly. So I did it. Real easy when you follow the scientific process. I am the guy who deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. And then, having deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, I then went on to decipher the learning of the Egyptians and the language of the Egyptians. I'm on a roll. Wide open field that nobody touched because of key persons who screwed it up. As a result, I'm able to go into any field of science, because that's what anthropology is. It is the umbrella science for all other sciences pertaining to a culture. And so when I hear about Bones talking about being an anthropologist, and then saying something that means she's not an anthropologist, I go, oops, error, scriptwriter error. Likewise, I see the dangers in the show of what led to our national dilemma that we are currently in. They have a character named Sweets who's a psychologist. He's got a doctorate. Psychology is a fraud. They do not use logical arguments. They start with the conclusion that human behavior is the causation. And so they categorize, diagnose their creation of human behavior diagnoses. It is abominable. And so the show trashes Sweets in the beginning. Everybody, not just Bones, is trashing on Sweets for being a psychologist. Name calling, exposing where it's wrong and why it's wrong. Just humiliating and disgracing Sweets for being a doctor of psychology. But they keep him on the show. He's a government agent with the FBI. The government are responsible for allowing psychology to be legitimized when they're not. And so the show treats him as one of the characters. He's a main character now. And it's become the new normal. And so they write the stories around Sweets assisting in investigations. And it becomes normalized that the audience has to accept it. And the exposures of his fraud get diminished over time. They even threw in a story so that we would feel sorry for him being abused as a child with the scars on his back, so that his foster parents saved his life. That is a non sequitur, red herring, false flag fallacy to equate him being abused as a child to claim that him being a psychologist means it's okay, and that we should accept psychology. No. But that's often the reason why people become psychologists or study psychology, is because of bad human behavior towards them as children. That's why in Utah, many women being abused, being raped, become psychologists. It's so sad. But nonetheless, eventually, Bones is then reconsidering science by allowing for fallacy. And it's destroying the show. And you have a script writer who makes it plausible for the fallacy existence to be real. They even do this with Christianity. Bones is Catholic. And so they catered to Catholicism by an episode where Seeley is trapped by the gravedigger on a ship that was going to be blown up. And he manages to escape the little casing that he was in, and his old ranger buddy shows up, but he's dead. The show tells the audience that spirit life is real and can actually help people in the physical world, as he's apparently able to lift and carry physical objects and other unnatural stuff, defying the laws of physics. And then they end, spoiler alert, at the gravesite, and while Booth is talking with the widow, Bones is there in a distance, and the guy appears in full dress uniform and talks to Bones. It's so true! These kinds of things perpetuate the lie, the fallacy arguments that deny science, deny truth through the scientific process. And as an anthropologist, the anthropologist of the ancient Middle East, I have seen many a Christian come in to destroy the field, destroy all scientific fields under the umbrella of anthropology. And one of the most abominable that I have experienced was taught to me from the Book of Mormon, from Joseph Smith, teaching me correctly, and yet it's not being taught in this church. And that is that the Jews who wrote our scriptures, who had the Jewish religion about the Jewish Christ, were merely prophesying about Jesus of Christianity. And so Christians say that they were prophesying about Trinity Jesus. Mormons say non-Trinity Jesus. This is what's called revisionist theology, or revising history. To deny the science and scientific process and impose your conclusions from Christian bias to be imposed on older documents, older scientific fields, to make them faith-promoting to your spiritual witness feelings about your religion. That is the most abhorrent of human behaviors. To take a whole culture with their government, economy, religion, and say, lie. And then replace it with your Christian interpretation so that it is wrong. And that your revision is now the one true interpretation. There are over 4 billion people in the world today who believe this revisionist history. They are in all fields of science. Science is getting destroyed by Christianity, Islam, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There was a YouTube video recommended to me on this morning's video of mine, and I thought, oh, okay, good. The Error of Revisionist History. And the title of the channel was Israel something. Oh, good. A Jew is setting the record straight, putting Christians in their place. So I paused the video, linked it to another tab, and began listening. An elderly woman in a den with books behind her, talking about how everybody gets the Jews incorrect because they were talking about Jesus. They believe in Jesus. Oh my God. The error of revisionist history. She did not want to accept and acknowledge what revisionist history is. She was trying to claim Christianity is true. I've done the videos from Oakes's talk about the source of truth, in which he makes it very clear that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a fraud by not actually saying it. As I have used the clip over and over again over these years, when he says that you cannot trust the motivation of a person when they're practicing priestcraft. You can't trust somebody who is not an expert in the field. If they're a sports celebrity making a claim about something, whatever, doesn't matter. And this is tragic, to witness people who are not experts, who may even have a PhD but didn't follow the scientific process, and are being promoted above truth. In Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints history, Charles Darwin came out with publication The Origin of the Species. It's a theory of evolution, as you've been told. Not a single person, likewise, ever fact-checked him. Nobody went to the premises to make sure that they were all accurate. Everybody ends up battling over his conclusion. Christians especially. No, we are not from monkeys. And thus this Simpsons version of Planet of the Apes, Dr. Zaius. A monkey out of me. We will miss you, Troy McClure. But the Planet of the Apes, likewise, was brilliant, but scientifically wrong as a sci-fi show. It's science fiction. And too many people do not pay attention to Galaxy Quest. Fiction, not literal historical documents. Star Trek are not historical documents. Did you not watch Galaxy Quest? You need to get out of here before one of them kills Guy. It is supposed to be entertainment only. You're not supposed to become a fanatic and start building a cult group of Sith Lords. And yet, human behavior gets fooled and conned when it is not made clear, when things are fiction, and how fact is supposed to be developed. And so one of the boo-boos in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which I've recognized that FAIR has been, again, desperately making sure to keep out of the internet. And belittling it and ignoring it and hoping it goes away, that nobody ever looks for it. My own mom told it to me as a kid, and I found it in her church history library. I know all Mormon myths are based on an actual document. You just have to find that document. And I've been doing that in my videos, finding the original documents of many Mormon myths having to do with the latter days. But this one in particular, and no, it's not the one of the Amish people on the moon, claiming that it was Joseph who said it. No, Danite. A Danite journal. Joseph told me! And then everybody assumes Joseph said it. Likewise, for this one, dinosaurs from other planets coming from asteroids striking the Earth and planting the dinosaur bones in the Earth. So that the Earth can still be 4,000 BCE when Adam and Eve came from the Garden of Eden, where single mothers, the other Simpsons episode, in the Gata da Vida, Bart! It's just so sick and wrong. And that is another thing that scientists are refusing to accept. You know, Egyptology especially. Assyriology, no, they'll say, oh yeah, the Epic of Gilgamesh talks about the existence of gods pre-flood. Well, the Egyptians got it first. That's where they got it from. But Egyptologists are stepping in and saying, no, we are dismissing those chronological kings lists because they don't make sense to us. That's not how you do science. It's an anomaly, so you need to run the test for the anomaly to find out the facts of what's going on, and they won't do it. So they just ignore it and hope it goes away and that nobody will ever find out. Can't do that. Even though Daniel Jackson in the fiction Stargate makes the hilarious comment about Budge. I don't know why they still publish his books. Nonetheless, makes a boo-boo himself, talking about space aliens. Putting humans on Earth. Or actually, we were the original source, and they were taken to other worlds, but but his argument in his opening lecture was that the Giza pyramids were older, as one of the dogs are making a break for it, stealing a car. I saw the cutest little puppy today. Looked just like the ancient wolves that were brought back into existence. So cute. But he's trying to make the claim, and he fails to do so, and I don't understand why he couldn't tell them. He blew it when he hesitated. So who built the pyramids? I have no idea. And oops. Oh my God, Daniel. But he makes the claim that the pyramids are much older than Khufu's name's inscription. He's right. The script writers are correct. If you use the science, use the scientific testing on the physical evidence of the Giza pyramids. They date pre-Earth flood 10,000 BCE. This is the cover-up of Egyptology that they don't want you to know about because they don't understand how it works. Because they won't do the science. The pyramids were built at least back in the 12 to 1250, maybe even 1300 BCE. Run the tests, collect the evidence, assemble them together. Logical Socratic methodology premises that lead to a conclusion. Run the test. And there are multiple tests that have been used by different people that have confirmed, sure enough. Even Canada, it was last year or 2 years ago, when Canada, with a dig, had found evidence of pre-flood remains. And so, yeah, it's hilarious that Mormons believe that dinosaur bones came from another planet. My mom telling me that, and I'm going, huh? What? And then my parents would take me to the dinosaur park in southern Utah whenever we'd come up every summer for their genealogy tour and dumping me off at, especially for youth, at BYU, to get rid of me. Nothing says love like parents hating their child and trying to get rid of them. They got rid of me for a Christmas once. They got rid of me for a summer. Pre especially for youth, just to get rid of me. They had had enough of me. God. They didn't understand. I wanted to get away from them. They were mean. They were abusive and taking away my agency. And again, we get told as Mormons, the devil's plan of happiness, Lucifer's plan of happiness, is to take away agency. And here my parents were trying to take away my agency. They weren't trying to help me as parents, and then I just should shut up and obey. That's Lucifer's plan. Real simple for me as a kid to understand. And all Mormons practice it. So, in regards to the scriptures that the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith tell you, we're Jewish. Book of Mormon starts off, we're Jewish. Interpret the Book of Mormon as a Jew. How hard is that to understand? How hard is it when Joseph Smith says Christianity is all wrong, abominable, and corrupt? That when I finally found the Joseph Smith papers of the original document of the first vision, including the second vision, that it was Willard Richards who wrote in Jesus Christ in the name of Joseph's church. Mormons won't fact check. They just accept whatever they're told. And those who leave the church still accept what they are told, but don't feel good about it. And they leave. Nobody finds the source of the document. Nobody does the research on the documents. We had Mark Hoffman in the 80s forging documents of church history. And yet, Brigham Young's forgeries still remain canon. And critics are mostly Christians. And therefore they have a bias. I've had many a Christian thanking me for exposing the church, that the Book of Mormon is not literal history, violates archaeology, not like the Bible, which is true. Get the hell away from me. You are an evil person to do this to the Jews. And so, to set the record straight once again, as the foremost anthropologist of the ancient Middle East, the Jews existed on the hill they called Salem pre-1500 BCE. We first learn about them through the war of Pharaoh David Moses III against the Hittites in the Valley of Armageddon. Armageddon won. David Moses. I'm using transliteration into Paleo-Hebrew for you. And in the middle of the war, he put his foot on the Mount of Salem to go on vacation. Oh, okay. Thereafter, the people of Salem would then build the temple and the palace. Therefore, the king of Salem is called the King of Salem. Solomon. If you understood the Egyptian practice of this, when the Pharaoh comes to your kingdom, your town, village, you give him one of your daughters as the tribal leader. The child of that union is sent back to the tribe as the tribal leader, and thus is the son of David Moses III, Solomon. I don't understand why Jews couldn't have figured this out, except for Christianity screwing everything up. The pre-Babylonian captivity Jews on Salem were Egyptians. They were a part of the Egyptian kingdom. Tributaries. And so when Babylon finally came and conquered them, that's when the Jews became assimilated into all things Babylon. And that's where it's kind of important to know when that change took place. Because the Sabbath day did not exist before the Sabbath day was invented by Babylon. The pure white master race of sheep, not invented before Babylon created it. So when you see stuff in your scriptures before the invention, creation, starting of their existence, you now know through science that the particular scripture is not the original from the time period you think it's claiming to be because of the first creed of Christianity that turned it into literal history and put the Bible in chronological order. To have the Babylonian Sabbath in Genesis means that the creation of the book of Genesis was not until after Babylonians' captivity. But wait, there's the Greek practice of temple prostitution in Genesis also. So now you cannot date it pre-creation of Greeks, the existence of Greeks. The book of Genesis is now written after the creation of Greeks. But wait, there's also the Roman practice of male temple prostitutes. Sodom and Gomorrah. Now you cannot date it pre-Roman period. The book of Genesis is established as fact through science as having been written in the Qumran community during the Roman period of time. The law of the Jews, likewise, Deuteronomy, with the Jewish Christ of the future, Qumran community, Roman period. All Jewish scriptures, including those that the Christians say are theirs of New Testament. Nope, Jews. They were written after Jesus supposedly was literal history, but before the creation of Christianity with the first creed, saying that the Jewish scriptures were wrong and are literal histories instead. The Jews who wrote Matthew and the other Gospels were writing after the destruction of the Jerusalem temple by Rome and talking about their future coming of a Jewish Christ still. And yet, because of Christianity, everything's been screwed up. White supremacist Christian nationalists threaten violence if people don't say Merry Christmas. Easter has replaced Passover. Pentecost has replaced Shavuot. You didn't watch that video, did you? Do you not get it yet? Mormons? If you have not left because you're an evil person, offended that it can't be Christian, that therefore the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints' prophets have been lying to you, that they are the enemy, they are the great and abominable church. This is what the logic arguments lead to. You cannot replace the truth with your spiritual witness feelings and threaten me to deny the truth with criminal activity against me to deny the truth. Book of Mormon tells you not to do that. Enforcing their belief with the sword. Murder to get gain. To cover up and hide the truth. You do not get to do that and claim to be true. You are the most vile of humans to replace and revise a whole culture. And what makes Mormons worse than Christians is that Mormons do it to their founder and to their keystone scripture. This is unacceptable as one who was born and raised Mormon and have learned that the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith are true in the learning of the Jews. But all my warnings have been in vain, as I am about to witness the utter destruction of my people, just like the Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith warned. Second Nephi, chapter 25. Mormons must be destroyed so that they can give up the belief and worship of false idol god Jesus. The great spirit of Christianity. Again, I'll go over the Zoramites. They built synagogues. Hey, that's for Jews. But they replaced the Jews with the great spirit of Christianity. What happened to them after they kicked out the poor? They were destroyed. Alma and Amulek teach the poor who had lost their spiritual witness feeling faith bubbles about how to use the science of agronomy to learn truth. All right there in the Book of Mormon for you, Mormons. And yet Mormons still believe that the theory of evolution is true. Big Bang is true. But just try to alter and merge together created fiction to maintain their beliefs. Just like Bones, just like other shows, sci-fi, just as Christians who think that they're gonna... Seriously? They waited 44 minutes to catch on that I was doing a video? Just like Christians who try to harmonize it. It was a Catholic who came up with the Big Bang Theory to support the Big Bang Theory of creation in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. Creatio ex nihilo. That was the Catholic version. And so along comes a Catholic priest, says, oh, let's create a theory called the Big Bang. That Hubble ended up taking credit for, but has since been vindicated, having been recognized for his role in creating it out of nothing. The Big Bang can never be tested. You can't run the test. Therefore, you cannot accept the Big Bang as a theory. It has to be dismissed. And that ruins the theory of evolution, because the Big Bang theory came after the theory of evolution. It was an attempt to try to explain the theory of evolution. But nobody bothered to check Darwin. A monkey out of me. We're using that in the theme song in the description below. Simpsons. Dr. Zayas. Among the great classical operas. I'm surprised they didn't have that a Broadway show. That would have been awesome. So, yeah, we're pretty much done anyway. They just couldn't wait the extra couple of minutes for me to finish. Dear God. But this is what it leads to. Criminal action based on hatred, because you refuse to acknowledge truth. And it is sad and pathetic that Mormons don't believe Joseph Smith or the Book of Mormon, and they have to replace them with Christianity in order to feel good about them. That is despicable, Mormons.